You're listening to SM Media, the number one place for exclusive Scottish football content.
You have the heart of a giant, show it. You got the pride of a lion, roaring. Maybe you need big love, you don't need to give up. 'Cause something real is waiting there for you. You've been flying solo, now it's time to let go. The only thing that's left for you to do.
Hi folks, and welcome to the debut episode of the SM Media Scottish Women's Football Show. I'm Scotland Pike. It's an absolute pleasure to be your host on this show. We'll be doing this show very often over the course of the season as the SWPL kicks off on Sunday. We're going to do a wee season preview. We're going to make our predictions that will maybe come back to haunt us at the end of the season. To join me on this show, it's an absolute pleasure, first of all, to be joined as always by Suzanne Mulvey. Suzanne, it's a pleasure to welcome you back on. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me, Scott. It's a pleasure as always.
It's an absolute pleasure to have you on. And we're delighted to be joined by the assistant manager of Hamilton, Robert Watson. Robert, we've had you on before. It's a pleasure to welcome you back. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, great to be back, and thanks for having us on, Scott.
It's an absolute pleasure. I'm really looking forward to this. It's going to be good to get this show started. Let's have a wee review on last season. Rangers ended Glasgow City's dominance. Suzanne, what was your overall takeaways for last season?
This is a point where you've played the clip for last season. My predictions were spot on. Rangers,
Yes,
City, Celtic. What I predicted. Obviously, I said that Jane Ross would be the difference, and even though she probably didn't score as many goals as I thought she would, I think just her kind of work rate, her kind of work ethic. Within the squad as a whole, not just on the pitch, but I think at the training, like she's just an absolute workhorse. She's kind of always the model professional, and I think that influence in the training centre has obviously helped some of the other players come on. So I think she had a big, massive part to play, although the likes of Lizzie Arnott obviously scored quite a few goals and she chipped in. But I think they deserved it overall. They were very, very strong. Celtic were great, obviously the cup double, but just in the league they kind of had a few slip-ups. I think they're just missing kind of a few players. The likes of Natalie Ross being missing for them is always a big blow. She's such a big player for them with all her experience. And again, with the likes of Glasgow City, I just think there's too much movement. When you have that many players in and out when you're battling for a title, I think it can help obviously bringing in new signings, but at the same time, when there's so many players out the door, it's just that unsettled with players kind of trying to, gel in the team and obviously find their feet. If they don't all find their feet at once, it can be over a couple of months before they're gelling. And obviously, like I say, Eileen Gleeson as well, her kind of putting her, kind of the style of play she wants. That's something new to Glasgow City as well. So I think it was just too much kind of all at the once for them. And then at the other end as well, it was obviously, because there was no relegation, it was obviously a great opportunity. Bobby will back me up here, but the likes of, Hamilton and Hearts obviously getting that season where they knew there was no relegation. It takes a while to adjust to that tempo. That's the biggest thing for me. When I was at Motherwell and we reached the Scottish Cup final against Hibs, it was just the tempo they played. We weren't used to that the full season SWPL 2, so the step up's so much bigger. So for Hamilton and Hearts to get that season, knowing that there's no relegation, obviously Hamilton came into a bit of form at the end of the season. They were playing well, so it was good for them to get that. So they'll obviously have a bit more experience going into the new season.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, echo everything you say, Bobby. What about your Hamilton team last season? Obviously, what was it kind of like, and your overall kind of takeaways for the season as it went on?
I think obviously we started well and a last minute goals and things like that, but our biggest thing was we probably then didn't back it up with a result. The next win or the next, we were close a few times and it didn't really materialise, and we got stuck in that little bit of run of being close but not being quite there. I think when we were doing a review of the season, I think we played 27 league games and 17 of those were a draw or decided by one goal. So that to me tells us that we were competitive, but we need to find a way to turn close games to draws and draws into wins. And it's, if we could have matched our away form with our home form, we would have finished much higher up the league. So, but I agree with everything kind of Suzanne said, and she knows from that kind of Motherwell, it is such a big jump, and we had a fairly inexperienced team at the level, and that year is hopefully going to stand us in good stead. But just on the kind of top end of the table, I think the best team we played last year were Rangers in terms of their ball movement, retention, rotations, the tempo that they play at. I think that they have it in them to be absolutely ruthless and really kill you, but I also think they have it in them to go a few goals up and then manage a game out, and they don't need to go. I think they probably realised they didn't need to go and hammer teams, maybe like teams have in the past where it would come down to two teams. They knew that probably results against Glasgow City and against Celtic and that little round robin between them all would decide it more, whereas in the past it was just City and just Hibs, and they knew that draws and then all of a sudden goal differences coming into the equation. So I think, Rangers were worthy winners last year. And although you're saying, Suzanne, that Jane didn't score many goals, she loved a goal against us, unfortunately. But yeah, thoughts to Jane, and hopefully she's back soon. She's been a brilliant player over the years and a good person as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Suzanne, obviously we're recording this on Thursday night. It's been a busy day, and the kind of league looks as if it's going through a bit of transformation. How good is it to see, obviously, in the Echo, a kind of big week for women's football in general, kind of across the whole of the UK, like specifically up here? Like, how good is it to see the kind of league rebranding and looking to as if it's going towards the future?
Well, obviously, it's absolutely fantastic for all the clubs, everybody involved. Obviously, in back of England winning the Euros, I think it's right to jump on that. And at the moment, there's a buzz around England and Scotland. We're so close by, so that buzz, and we should jump on the back of it. And there'll be hundreds of young girls watching it, from Scotland now wanting to play for Scotland, and they'll be buzzing, and they'll know that that's the biggest stage, and they'll want to get there one day. So if we promote the game and try and build it as much as possible and create the opportunities for young players coming through, then we should take everything we can, like I say, jump on the back of that. Definitely. It was an amazing week. I've played against some of the girls in the England squad, and also played alongside the likes of Beth Mead at Sunderland. And to see them, going on and winning that, it's just absolutely fantastic. And I think that it's very strange that so many Scottish people turn around and saying it's the only time that they've probably supported England. But, I was absolutely delighted that they won. I thought they were deserved winners. For the first game to the last game, I thought they were absolutely fantastic. So, as I say, we should definitely jump on the back of that. And there's so much going on behind the scenes, in Scottish women's football, which is absolutely amazing. There's so much effort from so many kind of individuals, within each club as well. And just absolutely delighted that the game's progressing in the right direction, and it only seems to be getting better and better.
Yeah, it's great to see. Bobby, would you echo that?
Yeah, I think in a sort of strange way, being Scots, we sometimes do that. We don't want to see England win, but actually the best thing for the profile of the game was for England to win the game, and against a really good side. It's rare you see a tournament where actually the two best teams get to the final. Sometimes they meet each other in the quarters or the semis, so it was a good game. I think the tournament was brilliant, big crowds at all the games, and to have 87,000 to any final, never mind a women's final, where crowds have, we look at Barcelona, Real Madrid, over the Champions League, where I think they had about 90,000 at a game as well. It's clear to anyone that there is appetite for the game, and when it's marketed correctly, whether that's advertisers or investment or whatever it might be to push the game forwards, it's clear that people want to watch women's football for it being women's football. It's not it's in a way it's its own thing. It's got attributes that make it more attractive than men's football. It's more of a family environment that might appeal to more people, and I think we've got to celebrate that as well. It has got its own identity, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that either.
Yeah, absolutely. Suzanne, let's get into the season ahead. It's been a busy summer. A lot of clubs have been doing some business. What are you looking forward to this summer, and what kind of signings have caught your eye so far?
Obviously, being a striker, I always look out to see kind of what clubs sign strikers or what strikers leave clubs. So for me, that's going to be really exciting. The likes of the German striker that's signed for Rangers. Having the experience of playing at Potsdam, that's just one of the top leagues in the world. The German league. So I think for her, is it Dina Oshman? So for her, I think she's going to be outstanding. She looks like a big, powerful player with that amount of experience behind her as well. I think she could really fill in that gap that obviously Jane Ross, is left. As I mentioned briefly, Jane Ross is such a fantastic player to have around the facility. and they will miss her terribly. So for the likes of getting a what looks like a nice, big, strong striker to play up top and obviously help contribute to goals, I think that'll be massive for them.
Just talking about the profile of the game, it's interesting. Obviously, Josie Guillard is our striker, is German, and she came into training and was like, "Oh, by the way, this player for Potsdam signing Rangers," and this was about a week in advance. Our dad over in Germany had actually broken in the news in Germany that basically she was leaving Potsdam, and that just shows you the profile of the game over there, and probably the second biggest league after the American League. It's already broken over there, so we I should have sold my tip, really. But it just shows you just the profile, and hopefully, going back to the last question, is that something that we can, we have those big announcements in our news eventually. But yeah, it was nice to hear something like that was Scottish women's football was getting mentioned in Germany.
Yeah, absolutely. Bobby, what about your kind of Hamilton team over the summer? How's pre-season kind of been, and how much are they kind of looking forward to getting started?
Yeah, it's been good. It's as with anything, you're sort of like, we've got to appreciate that we obviously no relegation last year. We finished bottom, so it's about setting realistic targets, but also pushing forward. We're not going to sit in training and say we're going to go and win a league title. It's just too much. It's just not going to happen when you compare budgets and things like that anyway. So for us, it's about improving. It's about being still having a good season and setting realistic targets within ourselves, which, winning a title is a great thing for a team, but you can also have great moments with your own targets, and that's what we've kind of really put across. And we've been very, very big on fitness. We need to be fitter. We need to be sharper. We need to be able to play at that tempo for longer, especially at home at New Douglas Park, where it's one of the biggest pitches in the league. We need to do better at home. Our home form has to be better. So that's been a lot of our focus. I'm really, really pleased with the recruitment that we've made. I think we've got some really exciting young players in. We've got hopefully one more to announce over in time for the game on Sunday. We'll see how that progresses overnight and tomorrow. But yeah, we feel we've improved the squad. We've retained our key players from last year, and we're really looking forward to getting started.
Brilliant. Let's get into the predictions. This is the hard part. This is the part that we hold our hat on for the season. Suzanne, you've got the pressure of continuing your form from last year, but we'll get straight into it. We're going to just go round the panel with each one and just see where we go, like why you're picking the team and who you think's going to be in this position. We'll start with the champions. Who's SWPL won? Who's going to win the league? Suzanne, we'll start with you.
I think it's going to be Rangers again. It was a close call. Looking at kind of the signings and the players that have departed, it was between them and Celtic this season. Although Charlie Wellens obviously contributed 40 goals, so if she signs again, that'll be massive for them. Unclear kind of if she's going to leave or if she's going to be there. That'll be huge in terms of Celtic's final position. But I just think that Rangers, they've kept the core of their players. They've obviously lost the likes of Kirsten Riley, obviously their captain, Brianna Westrop. That's massive for them. But signing the likes of Catherine Hill, obviously Dana Oshman, I think that these signings are going to contribute and add a lot to the squad. And we're only losing a couple of players. I just think they've got the depth of the squad that they had last season. I think they just kind of added to that. So I think that they probably will retain the title. Closely followed by Celtic. Celtic were missing something last season. They slipped up in a few games. But I think that they've kind of added a few decent players to their squad this season. And if they keep a hold of Charlie Wellens and the likes of Natalie Rose coming back in from injury, I think that they'll probably be the closest contender to Rangers, with Glasgow City finishing third.
So you've got 1, 2, 3 Rangers, Celtic, and Glasgow City. Bobby, what is your 1, 2, 3 for the season ahead?
I would say I think I just agree with Suzanne. I just can't really see past Rangers with the recruitment that they've made. I think they have recruited a team for the Champions League, never mind the domestic league. I think they have a real good chance of getting to the group stage with the qualifiers coming up, and I think they've recruited strongly. Looking forward to that. I just think they've just got depth that other teams don't have. I think Suzanne's right again about Celtic. I think they're a good side, and losing 40 goals if Charlie Wellings isn't here for the season, that's going to be very, very difficult to replace. And she scored big goals as well. She scored big goals against and big performances in the big games when they needed her to. I think for me, she was kind of the top striker in the league last year. She's very good in tight spaces as well as being able to run in behind. I think a lot of people get obsessed, but she's great running in behind, but she's brilliant around about the box as well. I think that will be a massive loss. I think City, just their turnover, I think that's going to be difficult to try and implement a style very, very quickly. I think just from personal experience, we played them when Grant Scott was in temporary charge under that sort of older City style, and they were quite fluid. I think there was a bit of a difference with Eileen's team. However, she's taken over fairly early, so a lot of that's going to come down to how they've Eileen's managed to get over what she's looking to do into the signings in a short space of time. And I think just that turnover might be their undoing. However, I still think they'll finish second. So for me, it's a Rangers first, City second, and I think Celtic will finish third.
Yeah, I agree. And Rangers to win the league, I think they've added as well. As Suzanne said, they've lost likes of Westrup and their captain from last season, but adding there's a lot to be encouraged about. The German striker, I think the signing of Colette Kavanagh is quite a good one as well. I think she was really good.
I think Cav is one of the best players from him. Was one of the best players in the league last season. I think she's quite versatile as well. Has a really cultured left foot, and she disguises passes, and even just finishing from the edge of the box, she chips in with goals as well. I think she's a player that's flown generally under the radar, I think, for a couple of years.
Yeah, I think I was really impressed with her last season. I do have Celtic to finish second, but I think, as you say, if Charlie Wellens is there, I think second is where they'll be. But obviously, if they lose a player like that, which I'm hearing is likely, then it could be tough for them. I've got City to finish third, but I think Hibs could sweep under the radar this season. I think Hibs could be a team to keep an eye on. What do you think of that?
With the kind of losses of like Amy Gallagher, Amy Muir, I just think that might be too much for them. They were a decent side last season, but I think they had too many slip-ups, too many draws and a couple of defeats that they shouldn't have had. So I think they're kind of hit or a miss. They could all gel together, and obviously the likes of them and Hearts coming under the professional banner now. I think it could be brilliant for them, probably training more and getting fitter. But again, I just think that if they have any slip-ups like they did last season, I think that could just be a step too far too soon for them.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think I do want to keep an eye on Hibs and just see how they're going over the season. But I've got Rangers first, Celtic second, and I'm just going to put City third. But I think Hibs are a team to keep an eye on. Your team to watch, Bobby, who's your team to keep an eye on from who do we think could achieve more than what we think?
I think probably for me again, Aberdeen. I think the loss of Kelly Forrest is a big one for them. I think she was a leader, a good captain, and been a really good player over the years for them. But they just have so much young talent. A bit of their location is a little bit of a blessing and a curse. They are unlikely to lose players, but it's also very difficult for them to replace key players. But I think they've got experience in the back line. Lauren Campbell, good choice for captains for me. He's been a good player. But I think for me, the one at Aberdeen's Ellie Shore, I think she's fantastic. I think she's an absolutely outstanding player. I think she might be the one at the end of the season coming, maybe to make the next big move. I'm a very, very big fan. And obviously, Bailey Hutchison up front, scoring double figures. You got a striker that's hitting double figures for you, then you're in with a chance. And I think it's a bit of the almost second album thing for them. It's difficult to follow up, but I think they've got good coaching staff and they've retained their best players. I think they're one to watch again, and they might be the ones to spring maybe a wee surprise. And especially if Hibs, where we're talking about there, with a high turnover of players, have that go through a bit of a sticky patch, and Aberdeen can be consistent. They might be able to go one better than fifth this year.
Suzanne, who we got as your team to watch for the season?
For me, it's got to be Hearts, for the simple reason that I felt that last season they had performances where they didn't maybe get the result, but they looked quite solid and they had a good defensive structure. And I think that during the season review last season, I'd said that it'd be interesting to see how their coach brings in kind of her style of play and how quickly they can gel. So for me, I think not so much that they're going to finish kind of top three or anything like that, but the fact that they've obviously signed girls on professional contracts, and they did have some good performances last season. If they can build on that, I think that they could cause a couple of upsets. The likes say getting in a New Zealand international, Katie Rood, Georgia Timms for lose, and obviously Emma Brownlee, the experience that she's got kind of playing at Hibs and Rangers previously. I think she'll be a massive signing for them. So I think that they could be the team that could cause a wee bit of an upset against a couple of teams.
I've got Dundee United written down. I think Dundee United were very good last season in the SWPL too, and I think the step up, I think they'll be fine. Like Danny McGinley, Tammy Harkin, two players who really caught my eye last season. Do we think Dundee United could be an interesting team to watch?
I think that they've obviously got Danny, Tammy, Robin Smith, even the goalkeeper Lauren Perry, Jade McLaren. They've got a lot of SWPL experience. A lot of that Cole played at Forfar for a couple of years. When Martin Nisbet had his team and they did well for a couple of years. So I think that I think they'll be probably quietly confident themselves. Again, it's for teams coming up, as we found last year, it's all about depth. Depth's a big thing, and it's difficult to, when you lose a couple of players, maybe out your first 11, and you're bringing in a player who's coming back from injury or maybe just doesn't have the experience at that level. That's when things can become difficult. So I think for them, they'll want to be keeping players like Danny and as you say, Tammy, like they'll be wanting to keep them fit and in the team. It's going to be key for them. Yeah, absolutely as well. Yeah, I was very impressed with them last season. Right, bottom two, Suzanne, who we got to get into the bottom two this season?
Just to be controversial, the way you were just saying, I've actually got Dundee United to be one of the bottom ones.
Right.
For the simple reason that, echoing what Bobby said, I don't think that they've got a hell of a lot of depth. If they do get a couple of injuries to key players, I think they could be struggling. And obviously geographical, they can't always recruit, players as kind of early on in the season because of their location. And the other team is Glasgow Women. I think that they've just got a lot of youngsters. They've lost quite a few, important players. Obviously, like say Lucy Ronald, Caitlin Kavanagh going to Thistle. I just think that the players kind of were the top players last season. So it is a lot of youngsters, and obviously the change in the management as well. Andy Garner's got a lot of experience, but I just think that the pace, they'll have a lot of energy because they're youngsters, but I just think the pace and obviously the experience, within the league, I think that will just be a step too much for them.
Bobby, who we got in the bottom two this season?
So I'm going to take the fifth on this one. Yeah, I'm taking the fifth on this one. I think it's what I would say is the format this season splitting into 2 6s means we're going to have a championship that's decided ultimately on games against your peers, and we're going to have relegation decided on games against your peers, and a playoff game, which is going to be really exciting as well. And I think for people coming to watch, I think there's going to be meaningful games all the way to the end of the season. And for me, whatever happens is in terms of a product that we want to sell and we want to be proud of, that's the most important thing, that games will matter all the way to the end.
Yeah, absolutely as well. I kind of agree with Suzanne and Glasgow Women. I think, losing big players like Lucy Ronald, I think will struggle. I'm kind of struggling to get another team. I'm kind of keen to get your thoughts in the likes of Partick Thistle, Spartans, Motherwell, teams we haven't mentioned. Suzanne, what do you kind of think of their kind of expectations for this season?
Yeah, obviously the likes of Partick Thistle, I was there, and the kind of the depth of squad they've got great experience now. I think for them their biggest loss is Cara McBeatty. The amount of goals and assists that she produced, obviously she's expecting a baby now, so congratulations. But I think she'll be a big loss for them. But I think that they've pulled in a few players, and I think that they will be all right. The Motherwell was actually, on my bottom two, I've actually got Glasgow Women, and then I've got Dundee United / Motherwell. For the simple reason that I think that they were another team that, like Hibs, that were a bit unpredictable. They'd go into games that you'd think they'd win, and they'd end up getting beat. And there's been a bit of movement there, for the kind of players in and out. And just with the players that they've got, I thought they would do a lot better last season. So that's why I put them down there, that I just think they're a bit unpredictable at times. But it could be, the new management coming in and a lot of new players. So maybe this season they'll gel a bit better. Hopefully, because, I was at Motherwell as well, and that, kind of the backroom staff and what they're trying to do is great. But yeah, I think that they could probably struggle. The likes of Aberdeen, I don't think they'll have a problem at all. I think they've got a lot of experience, and the youngsters that they've got are producing the goods. So I think that they won't have any trouble.
Bobby, what do you think about the kind of teams? That you get an opinion on them for the season ahead?
I think that I can only really look back to the games that we've played, and generally they were all close games, and it's they'll probably be saying the same things. They've probably drawn games or lost games where they really feel they need to turn those into draws or turn them into wins or whatever it might be. So that's the kind of beauty of the league, is actually outside of that top three, maybe top four with Hibs, is very close, and not many games are settled by more than a goal or two here or there. We've spoken about second goals massive. Hardly any games teams turn around a 2-goal deficit. It just doesn't really happen in the league, which is a testament to how close many of the teams are. But I think, I was at the SPFL launch today and speaking to Paul and Debbie and Gavin from Aberdeen, and I think they're all probably saying, like everyone that was outside that kind of top three, it's about, can we make improvements year on year? Can we improve our squad? So I think, it's going to be an almighty scrap for the top six. And I think the kind of three teams we mentioned there, Partick as well. Partick had, to be fair to them, had an absolutely brilliant season last year, getting to a cup semi-final as well. There's no reason that they aren't looking upwards towards the top six and thinking, you know what, we run our results at the right time, and you're in with a great shout.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's going to be really exciting. Obviously, as you say, the top six and the bottom six splitting into two, it's going to give a lot more competition. Obviously, we see that with the men's game, like bringing it into the women's game. I think it's going to be massive as well. Signing to watch, Suzanne, who's your signing to keep an eye on out the 5,000 that have been made over the summer?
Just literally briefly on, obviously, the bottom two. I think that the most important thing is not finishing bottom. Automatic relegation. I think that most teams will say, as long as we don't finish bottom, because the tempo of the SWPL 1 compared to SWPL 2, most teams that finish second bottom will think, right, we're probably in a really good chance because we'll probably just have that fitness level that's above, whoever is in the playoff with them. So I think that will be the key. Just make sure you're not bottom. If you finish second bottom, then you're in with a chance for the playoff. So just on that, I think that probably will be most of the teams, within that area will be saying that, just don't finish bottom. Signing to watch, I'm going to go for, I don't even know how to pronounce her name with all these signings, Desiree Monsivas, which is the Mexican for City. I think that we've mentioned before, City are, they're always a team that are round about it, they're always there. Their biggest problem over the past few years has been the rotation of players in and out. When I was there years ago, that was the one thing that I said that kept them being successful, was that they had that core of players, and every year they added a couple and lost a couple, but they had that spine, the core of players who just kind of always managed to get the titles in the cups for them. So bringing in players that have got a bit of experience, that are kind of top quality. Obviously, the likes of Chinchilla, she done well for them last season, getting the Player of the Year. So I think that could be a big signing for them. Bringing in goals that they will need at important times, hopefully, in the season.
So you've got the Glasgow City's new striker, Bobby. Who you got for signing of the season?
I did have Desiree put down. I'm not even going to attempt. Sorry, Desiree. So for me, I think, kind of alluded earlier on, I think Colette Kavanagh has flown under the radar for a long time, but I'm going to pick out, Suzanne mentioned her earlier on, Katie Rood. I think it's a really interesting signing Hearts have made. International striker, did a good career down south, has done really well for our national teams. I think that's a really interesting one a little bit outside the box as well, so interesting to see how she's going to get on up here.
Yeah, I've got Dina Osman, the signing from Germany for Rangers. I think she's going to be a revelation in Scotland. Obviously, I'm just looking here, she had a spell in America at Central Florida. I think that experience as well was massive, and obviously coming from the top flight of Germany, I think it's going to be good as well. She's played at under-20s for Germany as well, so 24, I think she's got a lot of potential. I think she could be that missing link for Rangers to kind of get them into
I think when you're coming from a team like Potsdam, and I think she made something like 14 or 15 appearances in their league last year. It's just, we saw Kathleen McGovern leave Celtic and has gone over to SC Sand to unfortunately get relegated, and she just, even the bottom teams, the jumping standard is so big, even compared to our top teams. So I think, she's another one to look out for as well, and it's a little bit of glamour, a player coming over from a club like Potsdam as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Who have we got for top goal scorer, Suzanne?
I have got Dina Oshman, or I've actually put Dina Oshman or Charlie Wellens. I think that Charlie just scored an incredible amount of goals, and I think the turning point for her in the season was when she got injured. She was absolutely on fire, got injured, missed a few games, and she came back and she still, scored a few goals, but not as many and not at the rate she was scoring before. So I think if she hadn't got injured, her figures could have been absolutely ridiculous. But obviously, not sure about her. But Dina Oshman, I think, as we've been saying a couple of times, just that experience playing for Potsdam. I think that league is the fact that it's just strong. The teams that they'll be playing against, big, strong players, and a really hard kind of team to. Hard league to perform in. So the fact that she's got that experience, I think that she could be a key player.
Bobby, who's your top goal scorer?
I did have Charlie Wellings. If she stays, I think I've said it earlier on. I think she's an excellent striker. So yeah, probably that one for me. And if Charlie goes, I think I'm going to maybe say Lizzie Arnott, because tends to hit penalties as well for Rangers. I think she scored about 20 odd goals last year, and I think her firepower is going to be key, especially with obviously with unfortunate injury to Jane. I think we might see Lizzie in the team more often than not, and maybe a little bit less rotation, because she does tend to score goals for them.
Yeah, I agree. I think if Charlie Wellens stays, I think it'll be Charlie, but if not, I think Dina Oshman will be the top goal scorer. Player of the year, Suzanne, who's going to be your player of the year?
Player of the year is Jacinta for Celtic. We've not mentioned her yet before, but I done quite a bit of commentary for Celtic TV, and she was just a player that every game she stood out. She was just a fantastic player. Just such good feet. When she gets on the ball, you always know that she's going to do something and try and go forward. And obviously, I think she was a runner-up player last year, so I think that if she keeps pushing on, and obviously her experience, having another a year under her belt, I think that she could go on and basically just keep doing what she was doing, but take that one step further and pick up that award.
Bobby, who's your player of the year?
I think in terms of pure excitement to watch, I think it's hard to look past Priscilla Chinchilla at City. She's just great. She's diminutive, and just she does, if you're a kind of just even a neutral, she just pulls out a trick or a drop of the shoulder, and she's probably doesn't score enough goals. That's probably the one criticism we've put her way, but I think she's a very exciting player to watch, and she's just got a really kind of infectious and bubbly personality when you meet her as well. So yeah, for me, I think a second season on the trot for Priscilla.
Yeah, I think it'll be Priscilla Chinchilla. I think she's a big game player. I think we enjoy her while she's here, because I can see her getting a big move in the next couple of years. I think she's top class. So I'm going to go for Priscilla Chinchilla to be the player of the year. Let's go into the SWPL 2. We've obviously got the introduction of Garth Cairn, East Fife and Montrose for the new season ahead. Suzanne, who do we think is going to win the SWPL 2 this season?
I think that possibly Baramura, followed by St Johnstone, or vice versa. I think that they're going to be the two strongest team. I think Grant being at St Johnstone is massive for them, just in terms of his experience. But Baramura, they obviously came really close to promotion last season. I think it went down to kind of the last game where they played Glasgow Women. So I think for me, the experience that Susie Shepherd's got there, I played with her a long time ago at Hibs, and she's just got that personality where she works so hard and obviously puts in the extra effort, and it's obviously shown now, the girls that she's getting to perform, and the results that they're getting. So I think that she's going to be right up there with Baramura this season.
Bobby, who do you think is going to win SWPL 2?
I think there's going to be a wee surprise, and I think Garth Cairn are going to come. I think they're looking in pretty good shape. Know Robert, who runs them. I know Robert fairly well, and they've got a lot of experience. You look at Cheryl Watt, ex-Celtic, Sarah Wardlaw, who's been around the leagues at that level and scored goals at that level. Lauren Kerr, who was with ourselves, won Premier League 2 in 2016 with us. Even going further into the back line, up front, they get Barry Huxworth, ex-Partick Thistle, really experienced centre forward. Going out the back line, even players like Jane O'Toole at centre back, just got a nice balance about them. Probably, and they've got some younger legs around about them. I think Amy Robertson is signed from Celtic, is a really exciting young player as well. So I think they might surprise a few this season, and it could go all the way.
Yeah, I think Garth Cairn could be a team to really keep an eye on this season. I know the kind of project that's going there with both the women and the men's team, so I think they could be a team to watch. But I'm going to go for Baramura to win the league, and I think St Johnstone will be second. Who's your team to watch, Suzanne?
Gartcairn. Pretty much what you were saying. I've been down there and I've seen the setup. When Eddie was there, he invited me down to have a look, and just the facilities they've got, the backroom staff they've got, even down to the changing room. It's just a great wee facility, and it's a great community project that they've got going there. And the likes of what we've seen, the players that they've got have got a lot of experience within kind of SWPL 1 and SWPL 2. So I think they're ones to watch. Just with the kind of inexperience, that's the only reason why I've not put them right up at the top end of the table, just because I think that it is a big, SWPL 2. The top teams are kind of the same as the bottom teams in SWPL 1. So that step up, they're just in that league. So it might just be a step too much for them this season. If not, the next season they'll probably get promoted. But I think they're definitely ones to watch. They've got a great group of staff, and obviously a good bunch of girls that'll be eager to go and for their new challenge.
I think you're totally right there. Bobby, who have we got for team to watch?
I've got Montrose. I think they've signed pretty well, got a couple in from Dundee United. Erin Ross was more or less an ever present for Dundee United last year in Premier League 2. Charlotte Gammy up front and Amy Ridgway, they tend to batter goals in. I think Amy Ridgway scored a ridiculous amount of goals in the North League last year as they got promoted, and I just think they're going with momentum. They've signed quite well from that area. Picked up a couple of players. I think it'll be a tough place for teams to go. They play at Lynx Park, so it's going to be one of the bigger pitches as well. They're used to playing on it, so I think they might spring a wee surprise across the league. Montrose.
Suzanne, who have we got for player to watch out of that division? Who do you want to keep an eye on over the course of the season?
I've kind of picked somebody that's not a known goal scorer or anything like that, but Claire Williamson at Baramura. I just think that the experience that she brings and teams that she's played for, I just think that could be key for their obviously title contention this season.
Bobby, who have we got?
So I'm going with Amy Ridgway up at Montrose. I think she's been about the leagues for a wee while. She was at Aberdeen for a spell. Granite City, we remember playing against Granite City in the Scottish Cup a few years ago. She was a player we kind of picked out at that time. So yeah, I think Amy one to watch in Premier League 2.
Yeah, I'm going to put Morgan Steedman down at St Johnstone. I think she's a terrific player. I think if she could be a big reason if St Johnstone were to go up, I think that league is going to be very fascinating. I know I've spoke to a few people at Kilmarnock. I know the project going on there. A few of them have signed professional contracts. I think they're worth keeping an eye on as well. Like Lisa Swanson, Laura McLaughlin, they're all terrific players. I think that league could be terrific. I'm really looking forward to that. I think it could be very open as well.
I think 4 games against each other though, so it's a lot of games. It's a lot of games. It's going to be thick and fast. It's going to be more games than probably a lot of those players are ever used to playing. So it could be interesting coming in the kind of final stages of the season, maybe the last round of fixtures if things are still close. I do think it will be quite open to the latter stages. I just can't see a team really pulling away. I think it's going to be a mix of some really interesting surprises from teams. Again, Kilmarnock did well last year, but their big problem was inconsistency, and they've not really brought anyone extra in. So it's for them, they need to find that balance and be more consistent. But I just can't. They were so far behind the top, I just can't see that clicking overnight, and I think that's going to be the big thing, is who can put a run together at the right time in that league's going to be the team that comes up.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think Kilmarnock's best signing this year is Jim Chapman. The fact that his experience within the women's game, when I first came into the women's league, stepped up to Hibs ladies, he was at Kilmarnock, and they were just absolutely frightening, the team that they had, and it'll be interesting to see, because the game has changed a lot in terms of how you can manage players. Back in the day, I think that Jim's style, he was tough on the girls, which worked for them. It was fantastic. What a great manager he was. So I think it'll be really interesting to see kind of what he does there. I think they could also be, ones to watch in terms of just seeing the kind of development and what they do under Jim.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I know the project that's going on down there. I think there's a lot of things to be positive about. I'm going to put you in a spot with one of these, and that were obviously the SWPL is kicking off on Sunday, but it's the first women's show of the new season. Suzanne, will Scotland qualify for the World Cup?
I think so. I think it was obviously just a bit of a transition period, and that's kind of what it's the same. It's a new project. You know, there's lots of change. I was talking to a couple of friends the other night, and I was just saying, like, the players, you know, within the squad, you know, the likes of Caroline Weir away to Real Madrid, you know, Erin Cuthbert, you know, who's now performing and being one of the top players down at Chelsea. The experience of Rachel Corsie, you know, Lee Gibson now, Lee Gibson now, her experience in goal, she's been playing for a while now. And the flair players, you know, that they've got, the wingers that they've got, like say Claire Emsley, Lizzie Arnott, they should be qualifying. You know, when you look at some of the teams that qualified at the Euros that didn't play so well, Scotland should be qualifying. The fact that they qualified for 2 in a row, it's a real disappointment that they didn't qualify for this Euro. So I think that'll, you know, the likes of, I've played alongside Erin Cuthbert at Rangers, and that'll give her fire in the belly. You know, she'll be pushing other players on, even though she's young. You know, she's got a great attitude. And I think that the likes of not qualifying and they'd seen that tournament and seen the success and seen the exposure and the crowds that were there, I think that'll spur on the big players. And the likes of Rachel Corsie, you know, as well, kind of coming to the end of her career, you know, how many more tournaments is she going to be able to qualify for? You know, things like that. It just gives them that extra push to want to go in and make sure that they do qualify.
Bobby, will Scotland qualify for the World Cup?
I think that you can see the improvement in results from that sort of disaster against Spain to the most recent result. We're definitely moving in the right direction. It was such a huge disappointment not to qualify for the Euros that have just been. I think middle to front, we're really exciting. We've got loads of exciting players. Obviously, Kaka at Real Madrid now, and Erin and Lizzie, and you know, Lizzie is now becoming an international player. I think our biggest problem is there's not a clear solution for fullback. I think we've tried a lot of different people and nothing's really stuck. And our sort of main centre-back pairing over the last sort of few campaigns are at the wrong end of their career in terms of now, you know, getting into their mid-30s now. And I think that's probably the biggest issue with the team. It's who's going to replace these players and finding a solution at fullback. I know that Pedro's tried a number of different people. Shelley tried a number of different people. So for me, I think we will qualify, but when we get there, we need to have those positions in particular with nailed down starters. I think whatever happens, Pedro needs to find the solution to that problem.
Yeah, I think it's going to be fascinating to see. Obviously, the playoffs are going to be interesting, so it'll be interesting to keep an eye on. We are going to wrap up the show there. It's been the opening show of the season. We're going to have many more throughout the campaign. Suzanne, it's been an absolute pleasure to be on. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Always a pleasure to be on and obviously talk about what we love, you know, and the fact that the game's moving in the right direction. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Absolute pleasure. Bobby, it's a pleasure to be on, and all the best for the season ahead with Hamilton.
Thanks very much, and thanks for having me on.
It's an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much to everyone that's tuned in. Please follow our SWPL coverage throughout the season and follow us on social media. Thank you. We'll see you soon.